Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
If the voice inside your head belonged to someone sitting on your executive team, would you promote them, coach them, or fire them? Because for many successful people, the most influential person in the room is also the harshest critic. Today, we're talking about the conversations that we have with ourselves, the stories we believe, and how curiosity can help us separate truth from fear. And I'm delighted to be joined in the studio today by our founder, Chief Listening Officer, and my good friend, Dr. Jacalyn.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a delight. I always love it when we get to do a show together. And this one is a humdinger because we do have conversations in our head all of the time, but they're running a script, aren't they?
They absolutely are. In fact, I was doing some research for a speech I was doing, and what I found out was 47% of the time we are completely distracted. And our thoughts are all over the place. It's very hard to zone in and focus.
Wow. I mean, that takes some thinking about, doesn't it? Like almost half the time we're distracted. And yet we think we're so focused, don't we? We think that we're such logical beings. And as we know, because we've shared on this show many times, actually, neuroscientifically, our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So very often we're off here with the emotion of what something's made us feel instead of actually what's actually happening right now, factually. But I know one of the things that you're brilliant at, Dr. Jacalyn, and you also train people on, is that elevated listening. And I'd love your thoughts on how we can utilize the skills of elevated listening when we're listening to ourselves.
Thank you for the question. I really appreciate that. And I think it does start with us. And I'm just as guilty of doing this because I beat myself up all the time. I think it's much less than what I used to do. If I was beating myself up 100% of the time, now it's maybe 75% of the time. But we have this voice inside of us, our intuition, and our intuition guides us. But many times we just decide not to listen to it for whatever reason. And we basically are saying, okay, I don't trust myself. So if we don't trust ourselves, how can we trust anyone else? How can we ask anyone to trust us?
That's such a great point, because it's true, isn't it? Our intuition tells us to do something, and then we leap in with our script we've created to go, no, actually, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's for me. I'm not sure this is where I should be going. And how many times does something go wrong and we go back and go, oh, we should have trusted our gut?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And as I mentioned, I'm doing that more now that I'm older because I started to realize that I have less time ahead of me, which is not a negative thing, but it's kind of like, okay, if you're not going to trust yourself now, when are you going to trust yourself? And Kim, I actually found a letter that I wrote to my parents when I was in college. We were cleaning out the house and I was 18 years old. And in that letter was a very insecure young woman. And I thought to myself, you're still that person in a lot of ways. So when at 63 or after, are you going to say to yourself, you know what, you actually are lovable and worthy of being loved? And I hope that our audience realizes that you don't have to wait until you get to be my age to realize that you have worth and value.
Oh, that's so true. And I really appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share that with us, because often we don't, particularly in today's world. We carry the vulnerability, we certainly don't share it, because then it might be more real. Well, it can't be more real. You're already running it all the time in your head. It is your reality. And I look back at myself even like 2 or 3 years ago and don't really recognize who I was then to who I am now, not from an arrogance point of view, but just from a self-compassion. I now look at it and go, I have compassion for every human being. Why could I not have compassion for myself? And I had to really work hard on that. And I don't always get it right. And I do sometimes still beat myself up, and it's amazing how often now my little girl catches me and she goes, but mummy, you wouldn't say that. So if I get something wrong, I'll say, yeah, I'll be beating myself up. If she gets something wrong, I'm like, it's just a mistake. It's just data. We can move on. So I've noticed now she coaches me back the other way.
Oh, how about that? I love that when we stop the process so that as a child, she can actually see and feel and advise, as opposed to when we get older and then we have to hire coaches like you and me to help people undo the behavior that they've already learned.
It's so true, because we do, and we don't realize that we can change it. If what we're saying about ourselves is something we don't like and don't want to think, we can change that. The brain does allow us to rewrite it. We've just got to do it through repetition in the same way that we repeated it to get it there in the first place. But it's knowing the steps, isn't it? It's knowing how to have those conversations. Because I love your thoughts, Dr. Jacalyn, but if I look at myself probably 10 years ago, I didn't like myself. I just certainly didn't wouldn't pick me as a friend. And yet, not because I wasn't kind to other people, because I was, not because I wasn't trying to be helpful, because I was, but I wasn't being kind to myself. I'd completely disconnected that actually you have to include yourself in kindness to be kind. Otherwise, you're not really kind. You're just masking this person who's willing to be truly evil to a human being. Just so happens that human being is them.
I completely agree with you. And Kim-Adele, I remember when I was going through my certification process to become a life, career, and executive coach, and the person who was running the program, she said to all of us, the cohort, she said, you have to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk, so that when people come to you, that you're not advising them, and meanwhile you're living a lifestyle that is not that admirable, and you're doing things in your life that you're ashamed of. And I never forgot that. And I thought, we all make mistakes, so it's okay to forgive ourselves, which usually is the most difficult thing. But what can we learn from the mistakes that we've made? And I think one of them is kindness. If we are willing to forgive people in our lives, and you and I could have long conversations about people in our lives who have maybe not treated us with the most respect, but we have to be kind to ourselves because we allow that to happen, and we have to grow from it. And I hope our audience realizes that being kind to yourself is where it all starts.
And that's such a great point, and one that I'm kind of trying to help Scarlett with now, which is actually, you don't have to do something you don't want to do just because the other person wants to. And we sometimes get stuck in those conversations, don't we? Where how do I get out of that? If somebody wants you to go somewhere and you don't really want to go, how do we get out of that? And one of the things I was really bad at for many years was over explaining. So instead of just going, no, thank you, which is a perfectly acceptable response, I would go, oh no, thanks for asking, and then I come up with this elaborate reason why I couldn't possibly attend, rather than just owning the fact that I'm not stopping you going, but I don't want to go as well. And I realized I probably learned that in childhood. So now trying to teach Scarlett like a polite way of extracting yourself from things and conversations, if actually they're not something you want to be involved in.
Exactly. Yeah, One thing I just want to share, because I always think stories are important. Today's day 138 of no sugar and no alcohol. And it's not that the number is that important, but I'm very structured. So I need to know numbers. And yesterday I had a colonoscopy. I just had one in March. And I had been thinking to myself all along, what is all of this sacrifice doing? And I would beat myself up, and have, because I say to myself, well, you don't look any thinner. I don't really see a lot of results. And it always goes to the scale, by the way. It's always the scale. And so yesterday, after preparing for the colonoscopy, I had lost, I guess now 7 pounds, which wasn't just from yesterday. I haven't gotten weight in a month. So I said to myself, that's nice, but you really should lose another 10. And I thought, when does it stop? When do we even say, you know what? Good job. Nice work. Well done. And then the conclusion was, when I went for the colonoscopy, which, by the way, most people might go once every 5 years or 10 years. So now I think I've gone 5 times in the last 2 years because I have ulcerative colitis. But I got great news. No cancer, no polyps, no ulcers. And so I walked out of there feeling like a queen. And then it was not even an hour later, and I said to myself, you can do better. Maybe you should give up more food. Maybe, and it was just like, we do this to ourselves. Where does it end? So I would really like for people to think about, are you giving yourself the celebrations that you've earned? Or are you constantly doing what I do, which is, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I'm getting better at it, but it's a lifelong pattern. What do you think, Kim? Is there hope for me?
There is hope for you. And I hope you take a moment now to celebrate just what you've achieved, because that is amazing. And we don't take long enough. But one of the things I've started to do, and I'm going to share it just on the hope that it might help anybody in the audience that's in there, is when I catch myself going back into the what I can do next, I ask myself the question, have I truly celebrated how far I've come? And I go back and celebrate it. Because just because you haven't, there's an art to catching yourself doing that and going, rather than beat myself up that I'm still going here, I'm going to change the loop. Because all of it is the brain, the way it's wired, it kind of gets itself in a loop, and it kind of can't stop. So we have to teach it to break the loop, to have something that confuses it, that makes it use a different part of the brain. And I think the fact that you recognize that you, less than an hour from something that was a major, you were back on the what next, means that it's becoming more obvious to you, which means you're getting better. Because when it's more obvious, every time you catch yourself, you have a choice. Do I let this thought continue, or do I now change the thought to take a moment longer to celebrate how far I've come?
Thank you. I appreciate you recognizing that and sharing that with me, because I do think that is important. I think that now I can see things much more quickly than I used to. And the beat up session isn't anywhere as long as it used to be, because to me, I always want to feel like I'm accomplishing something, and accomplishing something could be just taking this moment to acknowledge yourself and acknowledge all that you have to be grateful for, which I have so many things, and I don't forget that.
No, and I think when we focus on the good things, we see more good things, because our brain recognizes that that's what we're looking for. So it starts to filter in more opportunities to give us what we're asking for. The problem is we tend to focus on what we don't want. We tend to set our goals in what we don't want. I don't want to get old. I don't want to look old. I don't want to get fat. I don't want it. But our brain doesn't understand don't. It just gets the action. So it filters in the things that it thinks, oh, she wants to be fat. Brilliant. Let's give her an opportunity to do that. Or she wants to look old. That's fabulous. We can do that for her too. And so one of the things that I try and catch myself in daily now is that what I want or what I don't want? Again, trusting myself to not beat myself up if I've got it the wrong way round, because it's catching it and going, I've caught it now. And now I can choose intentionally what I'm going to say next. Because as you mentioned earlier in the show, Dr. Jacalyn, we do get things wrong. We make mistakes, but mistakes are only more information. They're more data. Just like success is only more information, more data. So when we realize both are equal, they just give us more information, which allows us to make a more informed decision next time. Then we don't have to wallow in feeling horrendous about ourselves, about the fact that we didn't get it right first time.
Very true. And Kim-Adele, and I know that we don't have any script. So there was no conversation about what we're going to discuss today, because there actually was supposed to be a different guest. So what I want to share, what just popped into my mind, I feel exactly where we're going is in alignment with my new book, which is called Stop: Why Knowing Isn't Enough. So we know information, we know what it is we're supposed to do or not do, but the doing it part is where it gets tricky. And so there's a whole mindset and there's all kinds of data and research about why it is that we know we should or shouldn't do something, but we don't actually take action. And one of the examples I want to share is if you think of a bottle of Coca-Cola. A bottle of Coca-Cola, from the research that I've seen, has 39 grams of sugar. And my mother drank 5 cans of Coke every day. That was her thing. And I used to be like ready to pull my hair out because I haven't had soda in probably 30 years. But anyway, I was explaining this to a group of people, and there was an image which was the bottle of the Coke. And then there was a bowl of sugar, which equated to 39 grams of sugar. And when people would see this bowl of sugar, and the question was, would you stop consuming Coca-Cola if you now see how much sugar is in it? And the answer was no. And then there was another image of 2 shot glasses that contained sugar. And imagine you're throwing back the sugar. And the people I was speaking with, they said they still wouldn't stop drinking the soda. So we know information. And if you think about how much sugar you're supposed to have in a day, I want to say it's 25 grams, but I'm not even sure. So 1 can of soda, 1 bottle of soda could just ruin the numbers for the rest of the day. But the feedback was, I don't care. I'm going to drink it anyway.
Wow. And there's lots of things like that, isn't there? That like, I guess I was then think about difficult decisions I've ever had to make. And it's only when where I am became too uncomfortable that I was actually willing to do what I knew I needed to do. Because change is uncomfortable. We don't like change. So we might know that we shouldn't do something or something isn't good for us, or there's something we should be doing, but actually it's going to involve us changing something we're doing right now. And we don't really like change. It's not how we're designed. We like to know what it is that we're doing. And I think it's kind of with any change, we experience loss, and nobody likes loss. So we experience loss, and we stay too long on the wrong side of the thing we need to be doing because we're not ready to admit that we're going to have to grieve or something. If you're, it could be loss of identity, could be loss of autonomy, could be loss of the fact you really like the soda. You know it's not good for you, but you really like the taste, and actually you don't want to accept that change. But I find now with myself, if I really sit and ask myself the questions, what is holding me back? What's making me not implement what I know needs implementing? And just listening to what comes up for me has helped me to make some difficult decisions faster than I've done previously. And a lot of it was having to acknowledge that, yes, I was going to have to lose something.
The loss is a big piece of it. I also want to bring up the fact that yesterday, when I was about to get the procedure, I was dealing with a number of nurses, and we were talking about diets and routines. And so I was sharing about what it is that I've been doing, because obviously I'm in a medical situation and I want to make sure that I'm picking the best choices that I possibly can. And what I was told by one of the nurses was that she thought about stopping sugar, and she did it for a week. And she went back. And I said, well, what was the main reason you decided to start eating sugar again? And she said, well, it's a reward. I work hard. I deserve it. And I think that that is part of where we get lost, that I've earned it. I deserve it. Whatever the case may be, we know something isn't good for us, or we know we should be doing something. And it can be as simple as having a conversation with someone. It can be as simple as communicating. I know I should make the call. I know I should have the talk. I know I should think about what I promised to do or the commitment that I made. But you know what? I work really hard and I've put up with a lot, and so on and so on and so on. It's the stories we tell ourselves.
It is. I mean, the stories we tell ourselves guides everything, doesn't it? You know, we say it in here before we see it out here, and we don't always spot that. We don't always go back and acknowledge that is what we're doing. We're kind of running the script, and actually now, because we're much more aware of it, I'll catch myself in moments and go, yep, that's a story. That's a story. So pull yourself back from that. Why is it you're feeling the need to tell yourself that story? What is it giving you? And how's it making you feel? And what's the cost of staying where you are? So rather than, for a long time, I used to try and deny that that's what I was doing. Now I use it as, this is my body's way of telling me I need to look here. I need to look at something. So I'm not doing something. And that might be because I've deemed it to be a reward. So, it's okay to have the piece of chocolate at the end of the day because, I work hard and I've earned it, versus, okay, what's that giving me? What it's really giving me is a moment of rewarding yourself for the day you've had, rewarding yourself for the actions you've taken. But actually, if you sit with those, if you spend time with them and you just think about how grateful you are that you've had a good day, how grateful you've got through, your body naturally releases the same kind of hit that the chocolate does. But we don't sit with the action. We just numb it down by whatever it is we've personally chosen is our reward structure.
And the word reward is a big one. It means so much. As you know, I've always been interested in the gold stars, hitting the next level. Like here, I have an entire wall of things that I have framed about accomplishments and whatnot. And I look at that and I go, oh, that was then. That was then. How many years have passed? What's going on today? And it's that endless pressure. But on the other side of it, if you think about people who look at life in a different way, it's kind of like, oh, everything's easy and everything's beautiful. And so there are people from a completely different perspective. And I think somewhere probably in the middle is the answer. But one of the things I want to bring up, which I think can also be confusing to people, is if you have people you follow on social media, and let's say they're A-list celebrities or they're major influencers, let's say in the fitness industry, you may be listening to what it is that they're telling it. And what I find so compelling and confusing is how information, if you were to take from 5 different people and you write it all down, it's really conflicting. One person says to do this, another person says to do that. So one of the most interesting / conflicting things that I've seen from a fitness influencer who's been on a lot of major platforms is that she talks about what women need to do to increase their longevity. And it's not about doing cardio, it's about weight training. And the one thing that she mentioned that really stood out to me was she said, I want you women to stop weighing yourselves because the scale does not tell the true story. And the first thing that popped into my head was, I guess because no one's losing weight. So because no one's losing weight, let's take that metric away. And the other thing was I read some articles about the garment industry and how a true size 6, for example, today might be a 4, because women don't like the fact that as they are getting older, the sizes are going up. So the fitness industry, specific manufacturers have changed how they're sizing clothes so that we think that we're fitting into smaller clothes, even though we weigh more and we're larger. So the point is that all the information that's out there, you have to take with a grain of salt. And I think it comes back to trusting yourself. And in the examples I just gave, are you making healthy choices? Are you basing everything on a number on the scale? And at the same time, are you avoiding the numbers? Are you going for blood work and you get back whatever the information is and you go, I'll deal with that when I'm older. And then you get to be older and you can't undo what's already been done. And to our point today about conversations we need to have with ourselves, wherever you are in life, whatever your age is, if you avoid those conversations, how is it going to manifest years from now?
They're all great points, because I think sometimes we can get conflicting information from various different sources, and I think you've kind of got to try and find your way through. I remember years and years ago, I'm definitely showing my age now, when I used to go on holiday with my friend, and we always used to get a Lonely Planet and a travel guide. We'd get 2, and we'd cross-reference everything in both of them, and if it appeared in both, then it meant it was a good thing and we should go to it. Probably a strange way to live our life and live our holidays, but I guess that's what I kind of do now, is go, okay, how many sources can I find the same piece of information in, and not conflicting information, and therefore how does that feel for me? Because I'll be honest, for me personally, I don't like the scales, but I do measurements, because I think, well, that can't lie. Like, if I measure myself, I'll know whether I've got bigger or smaller, because that bit has to be the same. But I guess that was just my personal way through too much conflicting of information and trying to almost have clarity on a path, because that can be the other big challenge, isn't it? Is how do we know? How do we really know if we're on the right path? How do we really know if it's making a difference? And it takes me back to when I was running big organizations, and they would have so many metrics, they'd have so many numbers that we needed to look at. But my concern with too many numbers is I could have a sea of red and think everything's going wrong, but my 5 most critical ones are all green. Or I could have a sea of green and think everything's going swimmingly, but my 5 most critical ones are red. So sometimes it's about being really clear on what is the most important data point, and how do we keep looking at that data point consistently to be able to see if there is or is not progress.
You really hit the nail on the head on that one. And what's coming up for me is when you mention red and green, I automatically think of, here in the States, blood work. When you get your blood work back, the green are the good numbers. And so I just go right for the red. Where are the red and where did I miss the mark? And then sometimes I think, well, wait a minute, if they have 50 measures and you miss the mark on 2, what about the other 48? But then I think, well, those 2 could really have an impact on my life, depending on what they are. So sometimes we can get too lackadaisical, I think, on celebrating that whole mindset of everyone gets a trophy. And then also we can be too difficult on ourselves when we're just focusing on the negative. I know many times when I read emails, I scan and look for where's the negative, where I really do. I go there, I go, good. Okay, where is it that we have some work to do? Or where is there a challenge? Or where is there a question? And I think in part that has to do, as a business owner, that to me, I don't want to get complacent that I'm celebrating short-term wins when I want to create a legacy. What do you think about that?
It's a great point, and I see it a lot. And I will, if it's okay, I'm going to share a story from somebody that
Yes.
I met many years ago. So we're talking nearly over 20 years ago. My goodness. And I had this girl, she's fabulous. And she came every week. She came to one. She sat this one particular day and she went, "Oh, it's just awful. I'm behind. I've not done it. I'm really sorry." And I said, "Okay, let's have a think through. Can I have a look at your goal?" And she went, "Yeah, of course." So I said, "Right. So your goal was to rewrite the entire induction training for a global bank." And she went, "Yeah." I said, "Did you expect to get it done in a week?" Well, no. Right. So have you failed, or was your goal so broad that you wouldn't know if you were on track or you're not on track? So right now, I don't know if you're on track or you're off track because you've got a goal that's this size and you've given yourself a week's timeline. I said, so what we need to do is break it down so that we can actually see if we're making progress. I said, because the only way you're going to deliver something this big, the only way you boil the ocean is a pan at a time. But you have to celebrate that you've boiled the first pan to give you the motivation to boil the second pan. Because I think that's what changes our mindset from this is just too hard to it's becoming more achievable. I'm getting there. There's less ocean now than there was when I started. Still a big goal that I've got to achieve, but I've got somewhere. So for me, I try and, because I was definitely in the, if you're going to go 360, I would look for the negative, even though most of it would be positive. I'd be like, yeah, but who? Like one person came out. It doesn't matter. That one person, I could make a difference. And I had a boss who once said to me that he'd never met anybody who beat themselves up as harshly or as regularly as I did, and that if it wasn't so tragic, it would be a key skill. I mean, that's feedback for you. That's feedback right there. So I've had to come a long way from that. And part of it was I never celebrated the win, ever. I just couldn't do it. Whereas now I celebrate it for what it is, a step towards where I'm going. But I take the time to celebrate it, because if not, where do you get that never-ending supply of motivation and inspiration and energy? Because you'd never give yourself a chance to refill that cup.
That's true. And sometimes we want to take the cup and throw it against the wall and say, I'm not drinking anymore. But the example I'll use from yesterday, when I got these test results back, and I realized in 35 years, this is the best colonoscopy I've ever had in my life. I thought, you know what? You're doing the right things. All of your efforts have paid off. And so I think that's also a way we can look to celebrate milestones, is that we've been putting in the work, we're putting in the time, and then we get confirmation and validation that yes, even though it might not be a number on a scale, getting confirmation that you are cancer-free is way more important. So I think that we have to prioritize too. And sometimes as women, what we do is we take the lowest common denominator, which is what we look like, or how much money we have in the bank, because we've been told all along that men are the ones who make the money. And to this day, I'm sure if we had some statistics, we would still see that probably on average, men are earning more money than women. But we're so versatile, and we're so able to do many things and put on many hats at the same time. Let's celebrate that as opposed to a number on a scale.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, it was probably about 8 months ago, but there was some data that showed that it would take another 122 years at our current rate of progress to reach parity when it comes to pay.
Wow.
So that in there, because you asked about stats. That's one of those that sticks in my head. But that's the thing. It's like we're looking at what we don't have, not celebrating what we do have. But when we celebrate what we do have, we have more things to celebrate, because our brain, we know, filters in what we're thinking about. It's how we know that if we've decided to buy a particular car, we start seeing it everywhere, because our brain knows that it's important to us. So it brings it. But the challenge that we've got is it has to be what we want, not what we don't want. If not, it will start to filter into view more things that don't work. So one of the things that Scarlett and I do every day is in the morning, we say what it is we'd like to achieve that day. And then in an evening, did we get there? Let's celebrate. If we didn't get there, did we know why? We haven't, and therefore what can we do differently tomorrow? And then what we're grateful for, because it just puts us in a much more positive mood. And you can look at it, yeah, I had an argument with somebody. I didn't really want to have an argument with them. I got in a difficult conversation, but actually look at these amazing things that did happen. Look at these things that I'm really grateful happened. But it made me realize that I was spending a lot of my time not being intentional. So I'd eat the meal, but I wouldn't sit down first and think how grateful I am that I've got the meal, that, you know, other people would love to be in a position to have the same meal that I was about to eat. I just went through the process because it was just fuel, as opposed to actually something that can now be a bit of an event. You know, we look forward to our evening meals because it's a memory making them, and then it's a time to sit together to, you know, to share what's gone well, what's not gone so well, what we'd like to do next. And for me, they're the things that I've seen have made a big change in how I view the world, how I see the world, because I'm very conscious. I have a little person watching me, and I don't want to give her a childhood she needs to recover from.
That is so powerful. And you're such a great mom. And obviously, you know, I had the opportunity to meet both of you last year and hopefully again this year. But one thing I want to touch on before we close out is on your LinkedIn, you actually have a statement. Let me bring it up. And I think it's really interesting. It is where judgment matters more than answers. Tell us a little bit about this.
So I kind of spent a lot of years running big businesses, and I now spend a lot of time as a thought partner for CEOs and chairs. And it really is around the fact that often you don't have the answer. You know, when I was sat as COO for one of the big banks, you don't always have the answer. What you have is lots of information, and your ability to make a judgment call is actually what becomes the most important, because you don't have the ability to wait for the answer. Sometimes that option is not available to us. Well, it's not available to us to know absolutely, wholeheartedly, that this is the right answer. And so we have to make a judgment call on the information I've got right now. What judgment am I going to make? And when new information comes in, what judgment am I going to make? And when we start looking at it like that, everything becomes so much easier, because when we get something wrong, it's more information. So we made a judgment not thinking it would go wrong. We now have some more information, so we can make a better judgment. And I think when we start telling our brain that that's okay, we're making the best judgment call we can right now with the information that's available, whilst constantly looking for additional information so that we can ensure that the judgments that we're making are being updated real time, which is kind of how technology works. Technology built by people, because that is kind of what we're trying to do, is gather as much information as possible and then make the best judgment call. We've been doing it since we were cavemen. Scanning for danger, scanning for opportunity, scanning for, you know, what next, and then making the best judgment call we can. And I think it allows us to step away from the fear of, am I certain this is the answer? Because in many situations, you don't have the luxury of waiting for that certainty.
That's such a good point. Sometimes we have to make decisions with the information that we have at hand, and our intuition will tell us, I don't know, it doesn't feel so great. We might have to go searching for more information. But I really appreciate this. I love our shows together. You and I used to do shows together every month, and it was so much fun. It brings me back memories to how we actually started rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, and I've watched you grow and evolve, and I just really appreciate you having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and being my guest. I always love our conversations. And when is your book next out, Dr. Jacalyn? If you could let us know in the chat, or come back on as well. Amazing.
Yeah, it actually is Stop Why Knowing Isn't Enough, and it's coming out September 22nd, but you can pre-order it now.
Fabulous. I can't wait to read it. And thank you again, Dr. Jacalyn, for a delightful conversation as always. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope it's given you some food for thought and help you to look at what it is you really do want. And until next time, take care.
People are searching for experts every day. Are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Every day, professionals are building authority through media. We've already built the platform. USA Global TV and Radio. Over 14,000 shows streamed to over 60 countries. This isn't about becoming famous. It's about leverage, visibility, credibility, opportunity. One interview, one conversation, one show, repurposed into content, connection, and business growth. Most people assume hosting a TV show requires a studio, a production team, and a massive budget. Our television packages begin at $1,500 US per month. Professional production, global distribution, replay visibility, built for voices with something to say. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and if this resonates with you, we should talk. USA Global TV and Radio, all rights reserved. Contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com.
Hey you, psst, yes you, watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.